They tried to silence him in front of everyone. This moment was not gentle. No one was trying to help Bruce Lee. This was not advice. This was not concern. This was control. They did not pull him aside quietly. They did not speak to him with respect. They chose to stop him in front of everyone. Because public shame is a weapon. When someone wants to protect you, they correct you privately. When someone wants to break you, they expose you publicly. They wanted others to see him being stopped. They wanted fear to enter the room. They wanted the message to be clear. If we can stop him, we can stop you too. This is how weak systems survive. They do not fight talent with truth. They fight it with embarrassment. Bruce Lee was not dangerous because of his fists. He was dangerous because of his thinking. He questioned rules. He didn't worship tradition. He moved differently. He learned faster. He refused to stay small. And that made people uncomfortable. People in power panic when they sense they are losing control. They don't always shout. Sometimes they smile. Sometimes they sound polite. But their goal is the same: to shrink you. That is why they didn't speak to him alone. They wanted to make him feel small in front of others. They wanted to remind him where they believed he belonged. But here is the painful truth most people learn too late. When someone tries to silence you publicly, it is rarely about rules. It is rarely about respect. It is almost always about power. They saw something in Bruce that could not be managed. He was not just skilled. He was not just talented. He was uncontainable. He could not be boxed into their system. He could not be slowed down by their limits. He could not be owned. And when people feel their authority slipping, they reach for humiliation. They hope shame will do what strength cannot. If you have ever been corrected loudly, mocked openly, or stopped in front of others, understand this: it does not mean you were wrong. It often means you were growing too fast. Some people don't want you to improve. They want you to stay where they can manage you. So if you are ever silenced publicly, if your voice is questioned in front of others, if your confidence is attacked openly, it is often a sign that you have outgrown the space you're in. Not everyone is ready for what you're becoming, and that moment, painful as it feels, is usually the first sign that your next level has already begun. Bruce didn't argue. He became still. When they spoke against Bruce Lee, everyone expected a reaction. That's how most people respond. They defend themselves. They explain. They argue. But Bruce did none of that. He did not raise his voice. He did not insult anyone. He did not try to prove he was right. He became still. To many people in that room, his silence looked like weakness. But it wasn't. Bruce understood something most people never learn. Arguing with fear gives fear control. When someone attacks you publicly, they want you to react. They want emotion. They want chaos. Because when you lose control of your emotions, you lose control of the moment. Bruce had trained his mind for years, not just his body. He knew that true strength is not shown in noise. It is shown in restraint. So he stood there calmly. His breathing was steady. His eyes were clear. His body was relaxed. And the room felt it. Silence, when it comes from confidence, makes people uncomfortable, because silence forces others to face themselves. The men who spoke against him were loud, but inside they were unsure. Bruce did not need to speak. His presence was enough. This stillness was not accidental. It was discipline. Bruce practiced control daily. He believed that if you cannot control your own emotions, you can never truly master anything else. He once told me something I never forgot. If you react, you are letting someone else decide your state of mind. That day, he chose not to let anyone decide his state. He knew that explaining himself would change nothing. People who want control are not listening for truth. So instead of fighting the moment, he absorbed it, and something powerful happened. The more still he became, the more nervous the room grew, because deep down, everyone could feel it. This was not a man being defeated. This was a man watching. Bruce understood timing. He knew when to move and when not to. That moment was not for speaking. It was for remembering. Later, many people would say they felt something shift. They couldn't explain it. They just knew that after his silence, the room did not feel the same. This is the lesson most people miss. Silence is not surrender when it comes from clarity. Sometimes the strongest answer is refusing to play the game at all. Bruce didn't argue because he didn't need approval. He didn't need agreement. He didn't need permission. He already knew who he was becoming. And when you are certain of your path, noise loses its power. If you are someone who has been attacked, questioned, or misunderstood, remember this: you don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to react to every challenge. You don't have to defend your growth. Stillness, when chosen consciously, is a form of strength. Bruce Lee understood that day that silence can speak louder than words, and that kind of silence changes rooms. That night, he stopped trying to belong. That night changed Bruce Lee, not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way, but in a way that never goes back. After being stopped in front of everyone, Bruce did not go out to explain himself. He did not try to fix his image. He did not try to convince anyone. He went home, quietly, and that is where the real shift happened. You see, Bruce had spent years trying to belong, not because he was weak, but because he was human. He trained in different systems. He respected teachers. He followed traditions. He tried to fit his ideas into places that already had rules. Like many of us, he believed that if he worked hard enough, if he stayed respectful enough, if he proved himself enough, he would be accepted. That night, he realized something painful. Some places will never accept you, not because you are wrong, but because you are different. Bruce sat alone that night. No noise, no audience, just thoughts. And one truth became clear to him. Belonging had a cost. To belong, he had to slow down. To belong, he had to limit himself. To belong, he had to stop asking certain questions. To belong, he had to become smaller. And, for the first time, he chose not to pay that price. That was the night Bruce Lee stopped asking, "Where do I fit?" and started asking, "What is true?" This was not arrogance. It was honesty. He understood that trying to belong was draining him. It was pulling him away from his instincts. It was dulling his curiosity. It was weakening his spirit. Belonging was costing him his freedom. That night, he didn't feel angry. He felt clear. And clarity can be lonely. When you stop trying to belong, you also stop being protected by groups. You lose approval. You lose comfort. You walk alone. Bruce accepted that. He understood that walking alone was better than walking in a direction that wasn't his. He once said to me later, "I would rather be alone than live a life that is not mine." From that night on, he no longer chased validation. He didn't need to be welcomed. He didn't need permission. He trusted his inner compass more than any system. And this decision changed everything. His movements became freer. His thinking became sharper. His training became personal. He was no longer copying styles. He was discovering truth. This is the lesson hidden in that night. The moment you stop trying to belong, you begin to become yourself. It is uncomfortable. It is quiet. It is misunderstood. But it is honest. If you feel like you don't fit anywhere anymore, if old spaces feel tight, if old roles feel heavy, it may not mean you are lost. It may mean you are outgrowing the need to belong. Bruce Lee didn't become powerful by being accepted. He became powerful by choosing himself. And that night was the first step toward the man the world could never ignore. The truth he shared only in private. After that night, Bruce Lee changed how he spoke to people. Not colder, not bitter, just more careful. He understood something most people learn too late. Not everyone wants truth. Some people only want confirmation. Bruce stopped explaining himself in public. He stopped trying to teach rooms that were not listening. He stopped throwing wisdom into crowds that only wanted technique. Instead, he became quiet, but in private, he opened up. Bruce shared his deepest thoughts only with a few people. People who listened more than they talked. People who did not rush to judge. People who were willing to sit with confusion. He told me once, most people ask for answers, but they are not ready to change. That is why he protected his ideas. Bruce knew that real knowledge is dangerous in the wrong hands. It can be misunderstood. It can be twisted. It can be mocked. So he shared slowly, in private conversations, late at night, during walks, after long training sessions. That is where he spoke freely. He talked about movement, not as fighting, but as expression. He talked about styles, not as systems, but as limitations. He believed copying kills growth. He believed truth must be discovered, not inherited. Bruce once said quietly, "If I give you my answers before you ask the right questions, I weaken you." This is something most teachers get wrong. Bruce did not want followers. He wanted thinkers. He didn't want people to repeat his words. He wanted them to find their own. That is why he avoided crowds. Crowds want shortcuts. Crowds want labels. Crowds want simple formulas. Bruce wanted depth. He believed that truth reveals itself only to those who are patient. In private, he spoke about fear, about ego, about how people hide behind tradition, because it protects them from responsibility. He said, many people don't want freedom. They want comfort. And freedom demands courage. He also shared his doubts, his questions, his moments of uncertainty. Bruce was not pretending to be perfect. He was honest. That honesty is rare, and it cannot survive in loud spaces. This is the lesson hidden here. Some truths are not meant to be announced. They are meant to be earned. If you have knowledge, vision, or ideas that others don't understand yet, you don't need to shout them. Protect them. Share them with those who prove they can carry them. Bruce Lee didn't hide his truth because he was afraid. He hid it because he respected it. And in doing so, he allowed it to grow strong. If you feel like you think differently, if your ideas don't fit common conversations, if you feel misunderstood when you speak openly, it may not mean you're wrong. It may mean your truth belongs in quieter places. Bruce knew this, and that is why the world only saw part of him, while the real work happened behind closed doors. Why being ahead of the world nearly destroyed him. Being ahead of the world sounds exciting, but Bruce Lee knew the truth. It is one of the loneliest places a person can stand. Bruce was not just ahead in skill, he was ahead in thinking, ahead in questioning, ahead in seeing what others could not yet see. And that distance almost crushed him. When you move faster than the world, you spend most of your life waiting for people to catch up, waiting to be understood, waiting for resistance to stop. Bruce felt this every day. People misunderstood him. Some mocked him quietly. Some praised him publicly but doubted him privately. Some smiled while hoping he would fail. This kind of pressure doesn't show on the body. It settles in the mind. Bruce carried the weight of being watched. Every move judged. Every idea questioned. Every mistake magnified. He couldn't relax the way others could. He couldn't slow down, because when you are ahead, slowing down feels like death. He once told me something very honest. Sometimes I feel like I am running alone and everyone else is walking together. That loneliness hurt him more than any injury. Being ahead meant he had no map, no guide, no proof that what he was building would be accepted. He was creating something new, while still being criticized by the old. That creates inner conflict. Some nights he doubted himself, not because he lacked confidence, but because isolation wears down even the strongest minds. He trained constantly, not just out of discipline, but because movement was the only place his mind felt quiet. Rest felt dangerous. Stillness felt like falling behind. The world saw strength, but inside, Bruce was exhausted. He was always proving something, even when he didn't want to. And here is the part most people never hear. Being ahead does not just attract resistance, it attracts pressure from yourself. Bruce felt responsible. Responsible to his vision. Responsible to his students. Responsible to not waste his potential. That pressure is heavy. It shortens sleep. It tightens the chest. It makes the mind restless. Bruce paid for his vision with his peace. This is the lesson most people don't want to hear. Being ahead of your time is not a reward. It is a test of endurance, a test of patience, a test of whether you can survive being misunderstood. Many people give up at this stage. They shrink themselves. They return to comfort. They choose approval over truth. Bruce didn't, but it cost him. He burned bright, and burning bright consumes energy fast. He knew this. He once said quietly, "If I slow down, I disappear. If I keep going, I burn." That is a hard place to live. If you feel tired in ways others don't understand, if you feel pressure without applause, if you feel alone even when surrounded by people, it may not be weakness. It may be the weight of being early. Bruce Lee was not destroyed by failure. He was nearly destroyed by vision. And yet, he kept moving, because even with the cost, he believed living truthfully was better than living comfortably. That belief shaped everything he left behind. After that day, no one ever told him to stop again. After that day, something ended. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. No one ever told Bruce Lee to stop again. Not because they suddenly agreed with him, not because they suddenly respected him, but because something became clear. He was no longer reachable. You see, there is a moment in a person's life when they cross an invisible line. Before that line, people feel free to question you, to correct you, to challenge you publicly, to test how much control they still have. After that line, they don't. Bruce crossed that line, not by fighting back, not by proving himself with words, but by continuing unchanged. He did not soften his ideas. He did not dilute his thinking. He did not ask for permission again. He simply moved forward. And that frightened people more than anger ever could, because when someone keeps going, after being publicly stopped, it sends a message. I am not dependent on your approval. People sense that instantly. They realized Bruce could not be controlled by shame, could not be slowed by criticism, could not be redirected by pressure, so they stopped trying. This is the part most people misunderstand. Silence from others is not always acceptance. Sometimes it is surrender. They didn't stop him because they changed their minds. They stopped because they lost leverage. Bruce had outgrown the need to be understood. And once that happens, no one has power over you. From that point on, people watched instead of speaking. They observed. They copied quietly. They referenced him indirectly. The same voices that once challenged him now stayed careful, because Bruce had become undeniable. Not famous yet, not celebrated yet, but grounded. He had clarity, and clarity is dangerous to systems built on confusion. Bruce once said something to me later, with a calm smile. When someone can no longer control you, they change their behavior. That day marked the end of his old life. From then on, he was no longer asking questions in rooms. He was building his own path. And here is the final lesson, the one most people never hear. The goal is not to silence others. The goal is to become so aligned with yourself that their voices no longer matter. Bruce Lee did not defeat anyone that day. He simply became himself fully. And once that happens, opposition fades. Not because the world becomes kind, but because it knows resistance is pointless. If you are in a season where fewer people question you, where critics grow quiet, where resistance feels distant, it may not mean you are invisible. It may mean you have crossed that line, the line where permission is no longer required. Bruce crossed it, and after that day, no one ever told him to stop again. Bruce Lee was not stopped. He was revealed. And if your life feels like resistance right now, maybe it's because you're standing at the same threshold, not of conflict, but of becoming.